So for many of you all, you may not have known I was on vacation for about a week. And the challenging part about vacation is not just getting up in the morning and staying in PJs. I had a staycation, not vacation. The best part about, and the most challenging part is watching TV. And so while I was on vacation the past couple of days, I got hooked into a series called The Godfather of Harlem. Now, I'm not advocating or suggesting that anyone watch it. I just want you to know that this is what I was hooked on while I was on my staycation. But while I was on my staycation and I was hooked on it, it ended abruptly in my mind in episode 3, and I don't even know, maybe episode 3, verse 10. That's how it goes. I don't know. Whatever happened, it ended abruptly in my way. And what I realized is that it's not over. The reality is today I want to invite you to consider the sermon topic, season finale. When The Godfather of Harlem ended for me after a good, I'd say 2 days of binge watching, I was upset and I started to Google, and what I realized, it was just a season finale. And with every good television show, there comes a time that the show must come to an end. But the thing about a series finale and a season finale is that a season finale wraps up an episode and a series finale concludes it from ever happening again. And so I was excited to find out that in 2024, still a little way to go, that this show would be coming back. I was also excited because it was just the season finale. But not only was it just a season finale, as I understand it, and many of you know if you watch TV, that when a season finale happens, a lot of times a season finale has a cliffhanger ending. It leaves you on the edge of your seat knowing that something has to be resolved in the next season. That it leaves you on your seat wondering what will happen next. It leaves you at the edge of your seat wondering what's going to come after this. The season finale will bring and could bring a storyline to a close, but it's going out with a bang. It's going out on a high, and it's a interesting, if done right, it's going to be good when it comes back on. And I was beginning to think about that while I was on vacation. I had planned the sermon, I had planned the series, the title season finale. I heard God said, and I was like, but why season finale? And as I began to think about it, and as I was preparing for today's sermon, as we are continuing in the I Am series, John chapter 11 and the story of Lazarus looks like it's a series finale. It looks like it's a series finale because if you have, and I'm going to take you through more than what we read, but if you look at John chapter 11, the scene is set up. Lazarus is now sick, and he was at the home of Mary and Martha, his sisters, the ones who loved Jesus. They loved Jesus. They were friends with Jesus. They was cool with Jesus. And because of that, the two sisters sent a word to Jesus that Lazarus, the one you love, is sick. It looked like that this is a situation where this series is coming to an end. Jesus gets word of Lazarus' sickness. And not only does he get word of it, he actually has the audacity to say, not only is he sick, but he will not die. I'm confused. They say he's sick, and Jesus is saying, but he will not die. And so Jesus gets word that Lazarus is sick, and the audacity of Jesus was not to immediately go to see about his dear friends. He stays where he's at for 2 more days. Could you imagine what Mary and Martha were probably thinking? Like, we sent word to Jesus and he gonna stay? Or maybe I'm going to preach to myself today. I know there's some times in my life when I have sent word for Jesus and I'm sitting here saying, I need you to come see about me. This is where Mary and Martha was at. They were looking for Jesus to come see about Lazarus, and Jesus decides to stay. This is not going in the direction in which Mary and Martha are hoping that it's going to go. And not only does he decide to stay where he was for 2 more days, he turns and says to disciples, let's go back to Judea. Jesus going about his business. And after Jesus goes about his business, after he has said this, after he's done what he's done, he gets another word that our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep. Jesus gets note that Lazarus is now dead. The series has in it. Lazarus is now dead. There is nothing else that can happen. That is what the people have indicated in this story. Reason that they say that the people have indicated, not only has Jesus gotten word that Lazarus is no longer sick, but is now dead, other people are at the house of Mary and Martha coming to look and to give them comfort during this time of grief. Mary and Martha are now sitting there grieving the loss of their brother. Not only are they sitting there grieving the loss of their brother, he has now been dead for 4 days. This is where the story gets good, because it looks like it's over. It looks like it's final. But Jesus finds his way when he finds out that Lazarus has now been dead and in the tomb for 4 days. He takes a turn and he comes where Mary and Martha are, because in verse 17 in this place, in this story, on his arrival, Jesus found out that Lazarus has been dead in the tomb. And now Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem, and many of the Jews had now come and gathered at Martha and Mary's house to comfort them in the loss of their brother. It's a final situation. They are gathered. They are there to provide comfort. They are there to say goodbye. And in the midst of them getting comforted by others, Martha gets wind and hears that Jesus is coming. Mary stays in the house, but oh, busy Martha. She leaves the house to go and greet Jesus. She leaves the house to go meet with him. And when she gets into Jesus' presence, she said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Lord, had you been in this space, that Lazarus would still be alive. But even though I know that you didn't show up, I know that even God will give us whatever we ask. Martha's in conversation with Jesus, and Martha's like many of us in the times in our lives where we have predicted a different outcome. This is the place where Martha is. I don't know where Mary is. She's still in the house, but Martha is in a situation where she's saying, if Jesus had only showed up when we wanted Jesus to show up, then the outcome would maybe not have ended like this. Martha was in a space in her life where if Jesus had done X, the outcome should be Y. Anybody ever been in a place in their lives when you're asking yourself, you feel hopeless? If Jesus had answered my prayer back then, maybe I wouldn't be in this situation now. If Jesus had taken care of some things and had fixed my children, had Jesus fixed my partner, because it's always about what Jesus needs to do for the other situation. If Jesus had fixed my family, if Jesus had fixed my job, if Jesus had fixed my boss, I then wouldn't be in a dead situation. The reality is, if you are reading the 6-week study, I was looking at something the author had said, and the reality is, I'd ask us, what is your if Jesus would have? What do you need to fill in the blank? If Jesus had done what? Because the author in this particular book of Finding I Am says that when she writes this without the blanks, we would have no room for Jesus to enter in and write the answers. Here, Martha is looking at a blank situation. Martha is asking Jesus, why didn't you show up? Martha is in a season, and not only is Martha, Mary, the Jews, Lazarus, and the disciples are all in a season where it looks hopeless. They're like the passage that Dr. Jonathan read for us in Ezekiel, when Ezekiel is prophesying to the Israelites and is seeing the imagery of the dry bones. bones. It looked like all hope was gone. It looked like a dead situation. It looked like that no life could be given. It looked like that the bones would never give up. That is where Martha and Mary are. And Martha is having this conversation with Jesus and wondering why the outcome is the way it is. But the best part about this story is that it's not a series finale, it's a season finale. Because here Jesus says to Martha, Martha, don't worry about it. Your brother will get up again. Your brother will rise again. And Martha answers Jesus in such a way that she's like, I know he'll rise again. I know in the resurrection on the last day, I know that Lazarus will get up again. How do I know that? Because we believe in the fact that Lazarus will get up again. But Jesus says to her, the best part of the I am statement. This I am statement rocked me off of my feet for the first time. I heard it before. I know the story, but Jesus says to Martha, I am the resurrection and the life. I am the one who believes in me. I am who believes in me will live, even though they die. And whoever lives by believing me will never die. Do you believe this? The reality is, and Jesus making this particular I am statement. Now we can go back and look at the beginning of the series when Jesus is waiting and he goes back and waits for 2 more days and doesn't head to where Lazarus is. He is intentionally not going. Well, why is Jesus not intentionally going? Because in biblical times, if Jesus would have went in the first 2 days, there never would have been a miracle. In biblical times, the way it was set up that if Jesus had gone to Lazarus in the first 2 days, the possibility of resuscitation would happen. What am I saying, preacher? What are you saying? That because Jesus intentionally waited, Lazarus died fully so that he could be resurrected fully. Jesus intentionally waits. And in Jesus intentionally waiting, it is in the waiting that the season is getting better. What do you mean in his intentional waiting? Because Jesus intentionally waits, there is no human way to say, I did it. Because Jesus waited, there was no one that could look and say that Lazarus got up because he was resuscitated. Because Jesus waited, Jesus created the space and filled in the blank with the I am the resurrection and the life. And because Jesus is the resurrection and the life, he turns to Martha, and Martha's language now changes because she knew that Lazarus was going to be resurrected on the day of resurrection, but now she believes in who the resurrection power is. I'm trying to tell you, Jesus initially and intentionally waiting changes her language from I know, but now I believe. Anybody in here ever been in a situation where you've talked about, I know that Jesus is who he is, but when you know and you move from knowing to believing, that's where the power is. Because now that Martha has had this conversation with Jesus, and now that Jesus has said that I am the resurrection and the life, Jesus then hits Martha with the question, do you believe this? Martha says, yes, I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God who has come in the world. Martha now changes her story, and after Martha changes her story, Jesus goes to the tomb where Lazarus is, and it is at that place that I love so much, because this is the first time we see something that we've not seen before, because he rolls the tomb back, and the one that everybody knows is dead is now resurrected, and he's resurrected by the I am the resurrection and the life. Maybe I'm preaching to myself, but I've been in some places in my life where I've been in some dead situations, the type of situations that it looks like it is the season and the series finale. It looks like all hope is lost in Ezekiel. It looks like there's no chance of my situation turning around. But because I believe in the I am the resurrection and the life, I know that I too can get out of my dead situation. Dr. Jonathan, I'm just asking the question here. And so here, When Jesus makes the profound statement of I am the resurrection and life, he shifts the narrative in front of all of the people who are watching. And when Lazarus gets up, he just doesn't get up. He gets up with the I am of the great getting up. Who is the great getting up? Who is the great I am? He is I am, the lily of the valley. He is the resurrection and the life. He is the one who is a way maker when it doesn't look like a way can be made. He is the one who is the I am that walks us through the darkest places of our lives and raises us from the dead. He is the I am that is the lily of the valley. He is the I am that is a healer. He is the I am that is a parent to the parentless. But the reality is, Lazarus could only get up after Martha believes. Jesus, when he makes the I am statement, I am the resurrection and the life, he's offering a statement for the believer to accept so that they too can be resurrected and have life. This I am statement is so powerful because in the declaration of Jesus saying who he is, it's a declaration for who we can become. In Jesus' declaration of resurrection and life, Jesus is too giving us our life back as he gave it back to Lazarus. As I prepare to close, I just want you to think about Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. One of the reasons they were so upset that Jesus didn't show up was because he was the one that Jesus loved. They were friends. They were upset because they just knew that there's no way Jesus wouldn't have come. But it was out of their relationship with Jesus that beckoned Jesus to come. What do you mean it was out of their relationship? They were a friend of Jesus. They loved Jesus. They were in relationship with Jesus. And because they were in relationship with Jesus, he could come and declare life. The reality of our text is when Jesus says, I am the resurrection and the life. When he says it, our only thing that we are required to do to be in relationship with Christ is to believe as Martha. As I was reading and studying and looking at the commentators, John wants to stress that point of do you believe this? Because if we believe, we too now have the very access to this resurrection and life. And so I invite you at this time that I want you to consider, as the author in Finding I Am writes, what are the blanks in your life that you need for Jesus to fill out? What are the empty spaces? What are the blanks? Because the reality is, it is in the resurrection of Jesus that our series doesn't end. The season and the episodes continue when we accept Jesus Christ. I invite you, if you've never accepted the Lord Jesus as the Lord and Savior of your life, he says, I am the resurrection and the life. Fill in your blank by accepting the opportunity to be in relationship, the one who can provide you resurrection and life. If you've never been able to say, well, I can't figure out how to do this. How do I become one with This resurrection life is simple. It doesn't take a formality. It doesn't take a walking down the aisle. It doesn't take the pastor praying over. All it takes is you to say, I believe that you are the resurrection and the life. I believe you, Jesus, died on the cross for my sins and rose again so that I could have life and have it abundantly. That's all it takes. It takes your belief. The same belief that Jesus says to Martha, do you believe I am the resurrection and life? And you too can have access to this I am statement.
Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. He's been my fourth man in the fire, time after time. Born of his spirit, washed in his blood. And what he did for me on Calvary is more than enough. So I trust in God, my Savior, the one who will never fail. He will never fail. And I trust in God, my Savior, the one who will never fail. He will never fail.